Welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today we're going to continue with day 4 of writing a comparative essay, and this is aimed at young learners. So if you're a teacher of young learners, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. So you're going to get all the videos in this series of writing workshop lessons, and you're also going to get all the other genres of writing that I direct at young learners. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So we're into day 4 of our comparative essay. And by now, we've already introduced our students to the structure of the essay. We've talked about what they're going to be comparing. We've talked about language for comparisons. So we want to start with a review. When we compare two things, we're talking about how they're the same. And when we contrast two things, we're talking about how they're different. So, what should a good comparative essay include? Well, we want to tell our reader what is being compared and contrasted. So, in our model essay, we were comparing and contrasting Alaska with our student's hometown. We want to talk about the ways that they're the same and the ways that they're different. So we're going to divide those comparisons and contrasts into two body paragraphs. The first body paragraph can be either comparisons or contrasts, and the second body paragraph should be whatever we didn't address in the first body paragraph. And we want to give details and examples as to how they're similar and how they're different. So today we're going to focus on writing an effective conclusion. So we're going to go back and we're going to revisit our model essay, and I'm going to walk through it. And I want everyone to pay particular attention to the conclusion of this essay. So let's take a look here. The title of the essay is My Home is Not Like Alaska, and this is written by Jenny. Alaska is like no place else on Earth. In some ways, it's like my hometown of Springfield. However, Alaska is mostly very different from Springfield. So I can see the thesis or the main idea right there. Alaska is mostly very different from Springfield. Let's go to body paragraph 1. Alaska and Springfield are the same in some ways. Both places have beautiful animals. The seasons change in Springfield and in Alaska. In both places, people love to play sports. So when I look at this here, I can see this body paragraph is very brief. It's only 3 sentences. And I always encourage my students, make sure you have at least 3 sentences in your paragraphs. So our introduction says that they're mostly very different. And I can see the paragraph on similarities is very short. That's good, because now when I look at body paragraph 2 on the differences, I can see it's much longer. So my body paragraphs are going to be supporting my thesis. That's really terrific. So moving to body paragraph 2, Springfield and Alaska have a lot of differences. Alaska has very different animals than Springfield. In Alaska, you can find polar bears, walruses, moose, and caribou. However, my hometown has horses, cows, and many kinds of birds. Alaska has long, cold winters and temperate summers, but Springfield has mild winters and hot summers. While people in my town like playing baseball and soccer, many people in Alaska enjoy winter sports, such as skiing and dog sled racing. So that's a really substantial paragraph. And that's terrific because my thesis statement said we're talking about differences. So Jenny did a great job explaining all the differences, and she gave lots of details and examples. Now let's go to the conclusion. That's what we're focusing on here. In conclusion, Alaska and Springfield have both similarities and differences. However, they're mostly very different. Both are great places to live. So, what should an effective conclusion include? Think about what we just read. We want to signal the end of the essay. I think Jenny did a nice job of that. We want to retell the main idea. That's our thesis statement. And we want to leave that reader with a final thought. So let's take a closer look at what each one of these things looks like. Signaling the end of your essay. So we want our reader to know when they get to our concluding paragraph that they've reached the end of our essay. You'll hear this referred to as signposting in the higher grades, but even for our younger learners, we still want to teach this. So we have to let our reader know that they're coming to the end. And Jenny did this by saying, in conclusion. But there's other language we can use to signal the end of our essay. We can say things like, in closing, to wrap up, to close, to conclude, or in summary. We want to retell the main idea. We want to retell our thesis statement. So how you choose to explain this to students is really up to you. If I'm talking to second or third graders, I might talk about the main idea of my writing. As I move into the upper primary grades, I want to begin introducing the concept of a thesis statement because I think it's really important. I think we don't do it early enough, and I think it's something that students can understand. So we talked about telling our audience the main idea or the thesis in our introductory paragraph, and we want to retell it in our conclusion. So our main idea is Alaska is very different from my hometown. That's all you need to do. You can use the same words, especially for young learners. I want them to understand the structure. So I say, just use the same words, the same sentence, move it down here. If you've got students that are really high level and you want to extend this a little bit, you can get them to paraphrase it and retell the main idea in different words. So let's take a look at our introduction and our conclusion here. Alaska is mostly very different from Springfield. There's the main idea. And however, they are mostly very different. So the author retold the main idea in the conclusion, and Jenny used slightly different language. So remember, this is the main point of your essay. This is what you want your reader to understand. Everything in your essay is going to relate back to that main idea, to that thesis statement. So we want to tell the reader directly in the introduction. We want our body paragraphs to support that. And we talked about how Jenny did a great job focusing on differences. And then we want to retell them in the conclusion. Something I tell students from young learners all the way through university is tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So we're introducing that main idea, we're supporting it, and then we're reinforcing it again in the conclusion. And now we want to leave our readers with a final thought. And this is cool because this is a chance for our students to be creative. Academic writing can very much be like a puzzle, like a Rubik's Cube, so to speak. We have to fill in the appropriate rhetorical features. But our final thought is really a chance for us to be creative. So we want to leave our reader with something to think about. I could say both Alaska and Springfield are great places to live. She could say, I'm really happy I live in Springfield. Anything, it's up to the students, and you give your students a little bit of latitude here to express themselves. So if we're going to evaluate Jenny's introduction, does she, her conclusion here, okay. She gets the reader's attention by signposting. She tells the readers what's being compared, and she shares her main idea. Okay, so you can use this graphic organizer here to have your students draft their conclusion. Okay, and then they can put their entire revised essay together in a template. So all of this is available in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, and you can find that link in the video description. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in our next video at the Language Arts Gallery.